Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping in the historic Max Factor building of the Hollywood Museum on Highland Avenue in the heart of Hollywood. Our guests are artist Reuben Ochoa and performer Richard Halpern. Artist Reuben Ochoa was born and raised in Oceanside, California, attended the Parsons School of Art and Design in New York, earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Otis College of Art in Los Angeles, and an MFA from the University of California, Irvine. He's been awarded numerous grants and fellowships from important institutions across the United States, and he's been included in major museum shows both in the U.S. and abroad. His work caught my eye because of Adam Gross, who's now at the Lapis Press, and of course we love Adam,
yes.
And we need for you to talk about Lapis Press a little bit.
Lapis Press, they invited me to actually do an edition. They're mostly known for doing a series of photo and printed editions, but they've been embarking on doing a lot of three-dimensional objects. And Alma Ruiz was a curator from MoCA.
Oh, Alma, she's great.
She's amazing. And she was asked to invite artists through Lapis and to curate a series of editions. And so we've been working together for a couple years, and we came up with an edition.
So is this the first 2 3-dimensional piece that they've done, or have they had other artists?
They've done a few, yeah. They've done numerous, and I think the last several years. But this is part of their 30-year anniversary, and so they wanted to create a series of new works.
Well, I got the invitation, and you can't really tell what this is. The other thing is you need to know your work. You need to know that you work with rebar, and you work with the concrete and different kinds of materials. So this is absolutely brilliant. It has this concrete base.
Yes. It's a concrete base, and it has tie wire, rusted tie wire, and the actual rebar object is casted in porcelain, and it's called Steel Life Porcelana, and steel spelled S-T-E-E-L, as in steel, and it's a play off fragile, the fragility of porcelain and the strength of porcelain, but also how it's usually made of iron. Rebar is made of iron, but it's all porcelain.
How many pieces in this?
I don't recall.
But many?
There's several sizes, 3 different sizes. When you cast porcelain, you have to use thicker gauge or because it shrinks about 15%.
Ah.
So I made a mock-up out of rebar where I spray painted it with
because
white
it's
paint.
so hot. They have to fire it at a very high.
It's just the nature of porcelain and clay. It always shrinks. So if you wanted to keep it close to size, to the scale you're projecting, you got to account for like 15% of.
This is not typical of what you do, though, is it? Making a small object.
No, I do a lot of large-scale works, a lot of large-scale objects, working with the same vernacular of construction materials, rebar, pallets, wooden pallets.
How did you come to this? Did you study this in school? What kind of art did you study in school?
In school, in undergrad, I studied painting.
Oh, you did?
And my interests were in painting, and I got a BFA in painting. It's now where I'm starting to revisit painting after several decades. After a decade or so working in sculpture, the work just started to becoming more sculptural. From the flat work started to become more sculptural, and I just pursued
So this
sculpture.
is like the beginning of. Did you paint this before you did it? Did you draw it?
I do a lot of sketches. I do a lot
Yeah.
of drawings. I'm constantly drawing the objects and the flat works I do before I pursue them.
And how many in this series?
It's an edition of 12, and there's probably about 16, 18 components.
Can I pick it up?
Yes, please.
Oh my gosh, it's very heavy.
It's actually lighter compared to the actual rebar.
Is it?
Yeah, the
Rebar's heavier than this?
Oh yeah, rebar is it's steel. It's all solid steel, so it's.
I think it's fantastic, and I'm afraid it's going to break in my hands.
know.
Will it? Could it?
Porcelain, it's pretty sturdy material too. It's more fragile than rebar, which is steel, but it's still a very sturdy material. Like it's just like coffee mugs or porcelain. Like
I like that, yeah. Well, we're not going to bounce it around.
right, because I've dropped coffee mugs and they haven't shattered because they're pretty strong.
It depends. One of the things about your work, Reuben, is that you're interested in the physicality of space. What does that mean?
I think when you're exploring sculpture, it's one of those things where it's a three-dimensional object that sits in space and resides in space. And for me, it's always like, how does that impede on the viewer? How does the viewer navigate and have this conversation with these objects?
To come into the space?
To come into space, it sometimes encroaches on your space. This is a small, like, tabletop sculpture.
Right, but we're talking about big installations.
I'm interested in having the space activated, not just by the object residing in the space, but also by the viewer engaging in it. And sometimes that means having these objects suspended in the air that weigh several hundred pounds that loom over the viewer and see how your body reacts to it, how one navigates form and formlessness.
Do you feel like if a person comes in, I think, let's say this installation, what was this called?
That's extruded masses.
Extruded masses. Talk about it. It looks like it's concrete.
It's actually composed of dirt. It's a mixture of a substrate of concrete, metal, foam, and dirt, but the whole structure mostly is comprised of dirt, 50-50 mix.
And if this is all that was in the gallery?
In the main space, yes.
Uh-huh.
And those loom over 14 to 12 feet tall.
This is 12 feet tall?
Yes, and they look precarious. It's really grimy and dirty, and they're very inviting to touch. And you can
You
touch
are
them.
invited to touch?
Most museum spaces and galleries don't allow people to touch their works because it could be something where it's...
Yes, and you don't want to get your fingers on this
Right.
porcelain either.
Yeah.
But what is this? How did you put this together?
It's just my investigations of combining materials that usually exist already in the world, whether it's concrete, steel, or dirt, and trying to create this fusion.
And where was this shown?
This was shown at the gallery that represents me here in LA, Suzanne Vilmutter, Los Angeles Projects.
Yeah, she's in Culver City, right?
Yes.
Is she in Culver City?
She's in Culver City, yes.
So you mentioned some of the materials. Have you mentioned all the materials that you use?
I'm not sure. I
Tell
work
us
with,
what they are again.
I work with a range of like galvanized fence posts. I strip it down. I remove the chain link, and I pull up footings. I create my own post footings.
To make the sculpture, or to make the
sculptures,
installation.
Make installations, make sculptures. They reside in space. They delineate space, just as they would demarcate space in a neighborhood. I try to do that within the gallery.
Well, what piece was that we were talking about, where you used the wire and metal and a slab?
Oh, well, there's Once Extracted.
Yeah.
Which was a 15-foot by 12-foot slab of concrete wall.
Did you make the concrete, or do you?
The whole thing is all a construct.
It's all construct.
Yes. Yeah, it's all a construct. It's all constructed and it's all a construct. The whole thing was it still weighed several tons, but the whole thing was hollow, including the dirt pile.
Oh, it was hollow.
Yes.
So do you ever use found objects?
I do found objects.
Or found objects, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I use dirt. Sometimes is a found object on wooden pallets. Sometimes when the museum allows me, I cut out their floor and use their concrete foundation as sculptural.
As part of the piece?
As the work.
I see.
And that's...
So one of the other things that I saw was outside. It was called Flock in Space.
Yes.
What is that?
That was a recent project I did for the National Sculpture Center in Dallas.
Uh-huh.
They invited 10 artists to do 10 installations throughout the city of Dallas. And I went there, did several site visits. We looked at a lot of spaces, and I ended up going with the Trinity River Autobahn, which used to be a dumping site where you'd find fence posts, just random garbage from the built environment. And
did you find the garbage there and then take it somewhere else, or did you do it there?
Well, when I was when I went there, it was already been renovated, and it's a now beautiful like Audubon like sanctuary for
Oh, it
birds.
is.
So
Oh, it is a sanctuary.
yeah, it's the nation's largest hardwood forest, and so I created this, working with the material I use, with the vernacular I use, and showing there, I created this flocking space, which is over 95 posts of galvanized
What kind
posts.
of posts?
They're just galvanized fence posts that you would see in a neighborhood that you see with chain link.
Uh-huh.
I stripped that down and I just left the footings as if you pull out the footings, and it created this movement of like a flocking space. It residing in the Audubon Center, as well as referencing Angry Birds and Bird in Space.
Will it stay there?
Actually, it just came back.
Oh, it just came back.
It just came back, and it's residing in a private property in Malibu.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
So it is.
It's back here. It's in LA now.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. Actually, it's near the water, and
Yes,
it looks
it's actually
like
near the
birds.
ocean.
Right.
And yeah, it looks very beautiful.
One of the other things that I thought was really great, you were invited to be in the Whitney Biennale.
Yes.
And was it a huge room that you did, a rebar room?
That it was
A structure?
It was actually a sculpture called Ideal Disjuncture, and it was several pallets and a chain link fence. They referenced an earlier sculpture for the catalog, which was if I had a rebar for every time someone tried to mold me.
Yeah, that was a great piece.
Yes, and that was several layers of rebar pads. When you lay a foundation, you lay rebar, and that becomes what gives concrete its tensile strength. Concrete has a comprehensive strength, so with that amalgamation, it allows floors to have strength and buckle if it needs to.
But so that piece wasn't at the Whitney.
No, but
That was in their catalog.
Yes.
And then the piece that was actually in the Whitney?
Was Ideal Disjuncture, because they invited a lot of us to do new commissions. And
Ideal Dysfunction. That was the
Disjuncture.
actual
Disjuncture, yes.
piece? Oh, and that was the assemblage with urban fragments and different things like that?
Yes, like urban detritus, wooden pallets, cement. And
So where did you find those pieces? Where do you find those pieces?
the pallets, I go, if I could find them on the street, I find them, but I pick them up there. But I also, there's several pallet yards I visit here in LA, and I have several family members that work in pallet yards.
I was going to ask you about
Yes.
that. Did you ever work in construction? I mean, is this a background thing of yours?
I didn't work in construction. I took the sculpture course in undergrad at Otis as I was studying painting, and it just blew my mind. But my dad did construction.
Oh, he did? But
Yeah.
is that where you learned some of this?
No, he kept us away from construction.
He wanted you to go to college instead of going to the construction.
He didn't want us to go to get an education and work at. And my parents were really supportive. Both my mom and dad, as long as we didn't get into trouble, they were good.
Do they understand this displacement of objects within a room? I mean, it's a whole different feeling of art.
Well, my mom comes from a merchant class background, delivering and selling tortillas, and my dad comes from working in the farms and construction. So for me to go in art school and utilize some of the materials, at first they're like, art school, okay. And then to utilize some of the materials, they were just like, okay, this is interesting. It took them a while for them to get it. I think they're just more concerned about how does one make a living, how does one survive, and I've been fortunate to be successful in some of the work.
You're successful, but you're also well known, and you've
well,
created some kind of fame for yourself. That must be very make them very proud.
Sure, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I mean, to have your name like that. Before we go, you talked about going back to painting.
Yes.
You did some freeway walls.
I
Were
did.
those painted?
Those are actually photo montages where I would photograph the vegetation around the freeways, and then I got a grant through Creative Capital Foundation, and I was able to wallpaper the freeway of LA.
Oh, that's how it was?
Yes, Caltrans gave me the approval, and it was a temporary piece. It was up for three months, and it was this conversation with. It was activated by people on the freeway driving 60 miles per hour, seeing this idea of a wall as it was removed.
A wall that has what? That looks like it's painted.
As if it was, it was like a photo wallpaper, as if the wall was removed and you see the vegetation behind. It was like a conceptual earthwork on
Like
paper.
the wall was removed.
Yeah, like a conceptual earthwork on paper where I didn't need to actually remove the wall. I could do it on paper. And
was that inspire your painting again? Would that inspire that?
possibly, it got tagged. I had to have a graffiti.
I did get tagged?
Yeah, and for me, that was the conversation. You put anything in public, in the public sphere, there should be a conversation with the public, and there was, and it would get tagged here and there, and to get approval through Caltrans, I had to have a graffiti abatement plan, and that plan was either to reprint it and wallpaper it, which was really costly, and all the grant went towards wallpaper printing it the first time. So me and several other artists went back and we actually started painting the landscape.
Oh, you did?
Because it was much more cost effective.
Really?
So,
but it actually just really put your hand in there too.
Yeah, so now it became a conversation with painting as well. And when the piece came down, it was shown near the Berlin Wall. It was shown here at LACMA. It was shown throughout the U.S., in Vancouver and in Mexico City, everywhere where there's like a border.
I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah.
Because it's a very interesting situation, and then it had a different kind of a life after you expected it.
It became a remnants of a freeway wallpaper. That became the title, with the sound of the freeway in the background and us chiseling and knocking off the wallpaper.
That's fantastic. Reuben, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching this part of the show. We'll be right back with Richard Halpern and his White Tie and Tails. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here at the Hollywood Museum, and it's a museum in the Max Factor building that everyone knows about. It's historic, and stars from all over the world have been here and had something done to them. I can't tell you what. But I'm with performer Richard Halpern, who has a long affair, a love affair, with the songs and singers of the 20s and 30s. His show, Hollywood Cavalcade, takes us down Tin Pan Alley. What is Tin Pan Alley?
Do you know what Tin Pan Alley is?
No, tell us.
I'll tell you what Tin Pan Alley, besides being a style of music from the teens up past the 30s, was an area of New York City where all the music publishers were located on the same blocks, on the same buildings next to each other. And it was said that if one would walk down the street, you'd hear all the little pianos going at the same time. That's how you sold your song back in those days, with pianos.
Right.
And you hear them all going at the same time. It sounded like tin pans clanging together. Thus the phrase, Tin Pan Alley.
It sounded like tin pans clanging
Yeah, take a little
together?
piano.
And do you play the piano?
I do not. I wish I could, but I don't.
You don't?
I don't even read music.
Oh my gosh.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yes, it is. So, so how did you get interested in this era?
Oh, I was always a big fan of Al Jolson back from the college days, you know, and that was just the catalyst until the other singers of the era.
These people are all from the past. Most of the people, well, 20s and 30s, we're talking about them. So how could you revive a young audience, like to include them in these songs that are so old? Are they interested? Do they respond?
Absolutely.
Is it corny?
No, it's not. See, now if it's corny, it doesn't work.
That's what I mean.
You make
Is
it corny,
corny?
it doesn't work. No, it's not like old men with the styrofoam hats at the pizza parlor. That era's gone. You know, this is serious business, and a lot of the patrons are college age and up. Of course, we have all ages, but a good concentration are the young swing dancers, things like that.
But you're trying to get this audience invigorated and to understand this music, right?
That's absolutely, and I don't need a lot of help. I mean, they come in and they're like, I didn't know this was here. I thought I was the only one who liked this, or what is this? This is like being in an old movie, and oh, I never heard this before, and I love it. I'm coming back.
So who were those prominent singers from that period?
Well, of course, the greatest entertainer of all time, anytime, anywhere, any day, before, since, ever, Al Jolson. You got Eddie Cantor, you had Ruth Etting, Sophie Tucker, Fanny Brice, Ted Lewis, Helen Morgan, all the greats like that.
Did you sing songs from these people? Did they all have like a signature song?
Most of them had signature songs. They did, actually, yeah.
So do you sing like them in your show?
I sound a little bit like a combination of Al Jolson and Eddie Cantor rolled into one, so I've been told.
So walk us through a little bit of Hollywood Cavalcade.
Okay, let's walk through, all right? We're walking, we're sitting down and we're walking at the same time. It's the recumbent life cycle, right?
If we could get you to stand, no one would believe you're in white tie and tails.
Should I stand up?
I don't-
shouldn't stand. I'm not
should
going to
you?
stand up. I was told not to stand up. You just have to use your imagination, folks. Okay?
Because you have a
I'm in
beautiful
white
white tie.
and I'm wearing tails. Look, I can do this. See?
Yes.
There. It's tails.
And who usually does this? The conductor at the symphony.
Conductor at the symphony. Yeah, they asked me, are you a conductor? Are you a magician?
Exactly. There's another one.
Yeah, I've got to be a magician on many levels, but not in the way you might think, you know.
But it's beautiful.
Well, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So walk us through. You started walking.
I started walking us through. You were coming with me, right?
With your patent leather shoes.
My patent leather shoes, that's right. The leather on top and my bare feet patent on the ground. Get it? Patent leather? Yeah. Sophie Tucker there. So
So
we're
do you
walking
do
through-
some of those kind of things?
I do, absolutely. So walking through the Hollywood Cavalcade, okay, the Cicada Club, downtown Los Angeles, which was the it's in the Oviatt building. Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Absolutely gorgeous building from the 1920s. It used to be a men's store right down there in the foyer. It was called Oviatt and Alexander's Men's Store. It is now a restaurant space, but the whole layout has not been changed. It's
No,
still
it's
the same way it was. It's not they didn't
stunning.
knock anything down. They restored everything the way it was back in the late 1920s. So you walk in, you're greeted by a doorman wearing a period doorman outfit with a hat and white gloves. You come in and you're greeted by the hosts and they seat you. You've got tables all around the dance floor. There's music playing on the speakers. And then, of course, there's the 5-piece orchestra, the Blue Serenaders, Richard Halpern's Hollywood Cavalcade.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
They're your blue serenaders.
They're my Blue Serenaders. That's right. Okay, and then you come in and you have your dinner. And it's a prefix dinner for the meal. You get a choice of appetizer and main course and dessert.
So this is we're calling dinner theater.
Well, not really dinner theater because the show that we're putting on is not really a play of any sort. It's music for your dancing, dining, and listening
Oh, then
pleasure.
can people dance while your
Absolutely.
orchestra is playing?
Yeah, while I'm singing.
While you're singing?
And while you're dining, and you can come
Okay.
in and dance and just
Go on. So
just
next.
give out with the hot cha, you know.
Next.
So next one, that's what it is. Then you're enthralled by what we do. We sing all the great songs from that era. Like
Are
I said,
you on
the
a
20s.
stage?
Yeah, big stage, and we have microphones in front of you. Like it's just like a real show, like the Coconut Grove. If any of you out there remember the Coconut Grove, if you want to go back to it, this is it. So.
This was the time, wasn't it? The timing for that.
Oh, sure.
So how did you get started? Where were you born and raised?
I was born in New York, in Rockville Center. New York is where I lived.
Oh, you
and,
did?
Yeah, and then I moved out to Los Angeles when I was 11. I lived in Palos Verdes, I lived in San Pedro, and now in Hollywood.
And where did you go to schools?
I went to school, I went to Cal State Long Beach.
Oh, you did. But they have a great faculty. They have the great arts
They did. I
department,
remember
right?
some of the stuff that I did over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before that I went to Harbor Junior College in Wilmington, right out by San Pedro. And
Well, guess what? I lived in San Pedro, too.
did you really?
I
Whereabouts
lived
did you
on
live?
Weymouth
Weymouth
Street
and what?
across from the park.
Okay, I was at 10th and Alma. Many
So-
years. We were neighbors.
Yes, we were when we were young, before we knew each other. So,
But we're still young.
did you have show business in your family?
Yes, my mother
Oh.
had some show business in her background before she ever married my father. She sang with Danny Thomas, whose picture's over there, I see, in the background, when he was still Amos Jacobs. And singing in the beer
way
gardens.
back,
In the beer
really?
gardens in Detroit.
So she sang also?
She did, but she kind of gave all of it up by the time she got married and stuff.
But
She
you
didn't-
have the voice that your mother
I had the
passed on
voice
to
that
you.
my father would have passed on to me. I had very old parents. My parents had me late in life. And my father actually, he claimed that he was in a George M. Cohan review
Oh,
on
wow.
Broadway. I'm telling you, this guy he'd be 112. He's live today. I'm not kidding. That's the truth. So I could have lived back then, physically. But so he was always I would say, a frustrated performer. He never pursued like he
so it was
might have.
It was okay for you to go into show business like this.
Yeah.
Where were you training? Where'd you train?
I went to school,
Just at
In the
school? Did you
schools,
go
yeah.
to music schools?
I didn't go to music school. Like the song says, I should have gone to an acting school. That seems clear.
You didn't go to acting school?
That's a little Sondheim reference out there, folks.
How did you research all these songs?
You just listen to them, and if it grabs you, you say, oh, I want to sing that. That's how you do it. Then you listen, you learn the words, you learn the lyrics, you learn the music, you get the sheet music. That's always fun, searching for sheet music.
And where do you find those?
Well, now you just basically go online, or you ask people that you know that have vast archives. But back in the day, you'd go to the different libraries, and they used to have this thing, Southern California Answering Network, where they would have a connection of libraries with musics, with that kind of stuff.
But then how do you sing it in the same style? How do you know the style that these singers did?
Just by listening and watching. There's a lot of old film. There's a lot of Vitaphone film.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah, silent, well, not early sound films especially, and early talking films, and you see the movie musicals of the late 20s and 30s, and the records, they basically mirror each other audibly. So
I know you like Al Jolson. So what songs of his do you sing?
Oh, I sing just about everything. Most of the Al Jolson songs. A lot of the ones people don't really, unless you're a really diehard Jolson fan, you wouldn't remember some of them. But I sing all the basic ones as well, yeah.
Like?
What are some of your favorite Jolson songs? I'll tell you if I sing it or not.
Mammy.
I have sung that. Yes, I have.
Was it, or was that an Eddie Cantor song?
That was a Jolson song, but the
Anniversary Waltz. What was that?
The Anniversary Song. The Anniversary Waltz was Patty Page, I think. But Anniversary Song was that was Jolson for the Jolson story, based on an old Yiddish
That's all I
theme.
remember, because I wouldn't know him from that period, and how you get the expertise to do what you're doing. That's what we're wondering.
Okay, you wonder how I get the expertise. Like I said, you just have to listen and watch and learn, and you can pick it up.
Do you have a director for your cavalcade?
Well, we have Maxwell DeMille, who is in charge of the whole series of shows that goes on there. He's the impresario.
And does he choose the music?
No, I choose the music. He chooses the performers, and then we choose our own performers in our shows, and he lets us do what we know how to do.
And then does this show, Cavalcade, go to different venues?
Well, I'm available for private events as well. We have performed it in other venues as well.
What other kind of venue would you perform it in?
Oh, any kind of corporate event, private parties. People have great Gatsby-themed parties. People have Boardwalk Empire-themed parties, wedding receptions, birthdays, anything like that. We work all the time with that type of thing.
So sing us out.
Sing you out. Okay, all right. Don't bring a frown to old Broadway. You've got the clown on Broadway. Your troubles there are out of style, for Broadway always wears a smile. A million lights, they flicker there. A million hearts beat quicker there. No skies are gray on the great white way. That's the Broadway melody. Hacha!
Fabulous. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Joan.
And thanks for watching. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa and email me at JAQUINN1.